Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are continuing our fraction unit. We are going to be talking about adding fractions today that have the same type of denominator. So let's get into reviewing what a fraction is. A fraction is a whole divided into equal parts. It's when you take a whole pie or a whole pizza or a whole number like number 1 and cut it into equal parts. You can decide to cut it into halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, 12ths, 20ths, whatever you want. However many people you want to share that with, that's how many pieces you can divide it into. The whole is the number or the object being divided. So if I have the number 1, which is typically what we're dealing with, we are cutting up the number 1 into a bunch of different sections, into smaller numbers. So all of these numbers are actually falling between the number 0 and 1. That is because we are splitting up the number 1 into smaller parts. We're splitting it into halves or into thirds or into fourths. So let's talk about our two main keywords, which are numerator and denominator. So we have our trick for numerator. Numerator is at the top, and that is because N stands for north. North, numerator, and north, the direction goes up. Denominator is our bottom number, and denominator goes down because they both begin with D. So the denominator is down below the fraction bar. So we have the numerator on top and the denominator on bottom. What these things are very different. The denominator is the total number of pieces that we have divided that object or number into. So if I have a piece of, let's say we have a whole pie, a whole apple pie, and we're going to cut it up into pieces, okay? I want to share it with 8 people. So I'm going to cut it into 8 equal slices. That would be my bottom number, my denominator, because that is the total of how many pieces I divided it into. My numerator is how many pieces are missing or have been shaded in. So let's say that Miss Weaver ate 1 piece of pie. I would have eaten 1/8 of the pie. 1 would be on top and 8 would be on the bottom. 1 symbolizing the number of pieces of pie I ate, and 8 showing that is how many total there are. So I ate 1 out of the 8 pieces of pie, or 1/8 of the pie. We have an example here of a watermelon. We have a whole watermelon, and if we cut it into halves, that means we're sharing it with 2 people. And then 2 is our denominator, and we see 1/2 up here and 1/2 down here. It's important to remember that when you are dividing up something, the more pieces you divide it into, the smaller those pieces are. Over here, we have the same object divided into fourths, and if you look carefully, the fourth pieces are much smaller than the half pieces. That's because now you're sharing it 4 ways instead of 2. So the bigger your denominator gets, the smaller your pieces get. So you might think, ooh, 1/20th would be huge, but actually 1/20th of something is very, very small because it would be divided into 20 different sections, and those sections would be much smaller than if it was 1/2. All right, let's talk about how to read or what a proper fraction is. Okay, we already know how to read these fractions. We read them as 1/2, and then besides the 2 being in the denominator section, we talk about reading the rest of these denominators as like a grade level. So like this would be 2/3, 1/4, 7/8. All right, a proper fraction. I've got to get all proper. A proper fraction is when the numerator follows the rule and is smaller than the denominator. So these are our normal fractions. These are the normal fractions we're used to seeing on a daily basis, okay? So these are called proper fractions. The number on top is smaller than the number on bottom, and that makes it proper because it is following the rules. Coming up, we're going to be talking about improper fractions, and spoiler alert, they break the rules. They're kind of my favorite fractions because sometimes it's fun to break the rules. But a proper fraction is very prim and proper and drinks tea with his pinky out and makes sure to follow the rules, which is that the numerator is much smaller than the denominator. Okay, and it looks all nice and prim and proper. Okay, so our normal fractions are proper fractions, and that's what we deal with. This is just to kind of introduce you to the idea that there are going to be other types of fractions besides proper fractions, and we're going to learn more about those next week. So let's talk about adding fractions with like denominators. So with like denominators, that just means the bottom number is the same. In 3rd grade, we do not have to add fractions together that have different numbers on the bottom. Okay, so we are really adding some really simple fractions together today, and this is actually going to be probably the easiest skill you've learned so far. The key here is to remember, when you are adding two fractions together, you add the top, but the bottom stays the same. I'm going to show you why that's true. Down here we have the example of 2/4, and we have a picture here as well, plus 1/4. Now, if you notice, we are adding these two sections together. What we're really adding here, we're not really adding the white sections together, we're adding the pink shaded in sections together. So if I added those pink sections in together, I would have 1, 2, 3 pieces now shaded in out of still 4. Because there are 4 sections here, 4 sections here. So when I add them together, I actually have 3/4 because the denominator stays the same. You do not add the denominator. That is because the fraction is not changing. If you look at that fraction that we are adding together, we are adding 2/4 plus 1/4. That's going to equal 3/4. It's not going to equal 3/8, okay? Because we're not adding 4 plus 4. We are adding the two top sections. We're adding just the shaded in sections together. But the number of how many pieces we divided that fraction into doesn't change. So the bottom number is not changing. The top number is what we're adding together. So it's actually so simple because you don't even have to add the bottom. Like, how much more easy could that get? You're just adding the top numbers together and the bottom number stays the same. So it is so easy to do this. We are just adding 2 plus 1 equals 3, and then 4 stays the same because the fraction stays the same. The denominator stays the same. So let's see if we can figure out this one together. First, we have 2 pictures here. We're going to identify what those fractions are, and then we're going to try to add them together to see if we can find our answer, which is our sum. When we add 2 objects together, that is when we get a sum. So here, our first fraction is we have 4 sections shaded in. So 4 is going to be our numerator out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4/8 is going to be our first fraction because 4 out of 8 are colored in. Plus, this one has 2 colored in. So I know already that these 2 fractions have to have the same denominator for us to add them together in 3rd grade. Plus, they look identical to each other. They have 8 sections. So this is going to be 2/8. So now we're going to add together 4/8 plus 2/8. Our answer is also going to be divided into 8s. So we know our denominator is still going to be 8. We are not adding the bottom part together. We are only adding the top numbers together. So if I add 4 colored in sections plus 2 colored in sections, that gives me 6 total colored in sections out of 8. So 6/8 would be colored in, and that's what this would look like. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8 colored in now. So we still have 8 sections, 8 sections, 8 sections. We're just adding the colored in parts together. So the top number is the only thing changing. The denominator is staying the same. All right, let's try these. We have 3 out of 5 colored in over here, so that would be 3/5. We have 2 out of 5 colored in over here, so that's 2/5. So if I add 2 and 3 together, my 3 colored in sections plus my 2 colored in sections, I'm going to have all 5 sections colored in. So that's going to be 5/5, which is going to look like this. And I want you to think, how else could I say 5/5? 5/5 could also be said as 1 whole because the entire whole thing is colored in. If the number on top and the number on bottom are the same, then that's the same thing as 1 whole. But if we were reading this as a fraction, it would be 5/5. All right, let's talk about a word problem, whoop, whoop, because this is how we're going to use fractions in the real world. All right, I love this analogy because we're talking about pizza, and who doesn't love pizza? Delaney's family loves pizza. Me too, sis. She ate 3/8 of the pizza, and her brother ate 4/8 of the pizza. What fraction of the pizza did Delaney and her brother eat together? I want to show you these fractions because sometimes fractions are written sideways, and the fraction bar is actually coming down the middle. It's the same thing. The numerator still comes first, and the denominator comes second. So she ate 3/8 of the pizza, and her brother ate 4/8 of the pizza. What fraction of the pizza did they eat together? So what we're going to do is add 4/8 plus 3/8 because they want to know the total amount. And when we hear the word total, we know we are adding together. We are trying to find the total amount they ate. How much did Delaney and her brother eat together? So let's figure out how many slices of pizza they ate together. 3 plus 4. 4 in my head, count up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they ate 7 pieces out of the 8 pieces. Remember, we do not add the denominator together because we are not getting 16 pieces here. There's only 8 pieces. There's only 8 pieces total, and there can't be any more. Okay, so we're not adding the bottom together. We're just trying to figure out how much of the top number that they ate together. So that's our numerator. We add the numerator together. 3 plus 4 equals 7. 8, 8, and 8, they all stay the same. All right, last one. Levi has 3/8 of a pie, and Brooks has 2/8 of a pie. What total fraction of a pie would the boys have if they combined their 2 parts together? Total means add. The word combine also means add. We are trying to figure out how much they have together. Total. So when you hear the word total, think in your head, I'm adding to find the total amount. So Levi had 3/8, Brooks has 2/8. So we're going to add 3/8 of the pie. I actually have a picture here, and 2/8 of the pie. So if we add those together, what fraction of the pie did they eat together? So we have 8 slices, 8 slices. We know that the answer also is going to have 8 slices in it, so 8 is going to be our denominator, and then we're going to add our numerators together to find the answer. 3 plus 2 is 5. So together they ate this much, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/8 of the pie. And that is how much they ate total. So that is how you add fractions with like denominators or the same denominators. You leave the denominator the same and you just add the top number. So it's really easy. If you guys need any help or have any questions, feel free to reach out and I'd be more than happy to help. Good luck, guys.